Hello, everyone. Dr. Brian Scott with you. This is Insights to the End Times, and we have been studying for almost 2 years now in these podcasts on a daily basis where we might be on God's timetable as we approach the end of the age. You know, Jesus said in Luke chapter 21, when you see these things starting to happen, look up, for your redemption draws nigh. This is a statement that tells us when you see all this stuff going on, you're getting very close to the end, so you better be prepared, and you better have your life right with God because we're getting really close to the end. One of my great mentors over the years, great teachers, became a very, very dear friend of our family, was Dr. Hilton Sutton, one of the foremost authorities on end-time prophecy, on the book of Revelation, and generally on prophetic scripture throughout the Bible. I asked Dr. Sutton one time, how much time have you invested in studying these prophetic scriptures? And whatever time that was when I asked him, he said, well, I've probably got 125,000 hours into end-time prophecy study, and it keeps growing weekly and daily. He was a foremost expert in this area. One of the other things I asked him was, are people paying attention to what's going on? He said, no, not really. They have heard other people cry wolf in the past. He said, do you remember as we approached 1988, a book was written that the end would come in 1988 based on the scriptures in Matthew 24, for instance, where it talks about the fig leaf sending forth its leaves and its buds. And when that occurs, you know that things are ready to blossom and come into the end time. And then it says, and not one generation shall pass away before all this is completed. Israel was reborn and granted its status as a nation once again in May of 1948. So this book said by May of 1988, everything will conclude, everything will be over. Well, that date came and went. Similarly, when we moved from the year 1999 into the year 2000, everybody said the computers will crash. They will not be able to accommodate the reference to 2000. We're going to not have food or water or electricity or power or heat. Everybody began to panic. Nothing happened. We crossed over. Things continued. So he said people are getting tired of those who cry wolf. They're not paying attention. I once asked Dr. Sutton this question. Is it wrong to read newspapers on a daily basis or to watch the news on a daily basis? And he said, how else are you going to know what's going on around the world? And how else will you know that prophetic scriptures are being fulfilled unless you keep abreast of world events? That's called a worldview. And so since that time, I've been very interested in watching what is happening in the world. Right now, we've got conflict. We're in Matthew 24, verses 6 and 7. Today, we're going to look at verse 7. The first portion of it says, nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. Is that occurring? Absolutely. Let me give you some illustrations of that. We have, in addition to the Middle East conflicts that are really heating up, we shared about that yesterday, not only between Israel and Gaza, the Hamas terrorists, but we've got the Lebanon border, we got the Syrian border, we got things happening in Iran, we got things happening in Yemen, we have things happening in Ukraine. But in addition to that, we have China threatening to take over Taiwan over in the Far East. The U.S. military they've got naval ships there, they've got warships there as a deterrent to China. But there's going to be some conflict there before this year is over. North Korea's leader, he was featured in the newspaper just in the last few days, but he has been shouting warnings against South Korea and against the United States to get out of the territorial waters around North Korea, threatening them, saying he has the ballistic missiles and the nuclear warheads to be able to attack the United States from North Korea. We don't know about him too well. He might just do some really crazy things. Russia continues its invasion. It's in its 23rd month now, And the nations around the world are supporting the Ukraine, but really the bottom line is no one is really, they're supporting Ukraine, but they're not coming against Russia. They put sanctions on Russia. Has that hindered them? Doesn't seem to have. They just turned to China. And they have managed to overcome things in terms of weapons, in terms of oil, in terms of gas, for heating and all that. And the countries around the world are afraid to really get too aggressive against Russia because of their nuclear capabilities, and who knows what their president would do. We've got Turkey screaming that they're going to become the caliphate. Erdogan, their leader, he claims to want to become the caliph, the leader of the caliphate, which is the largest gathering of Arab nations in the world. He also is boasting of having the largest army in the entire world. And, of course, his focus is on Israel, coming against Israel. And then we've got the terrorist groups that are rising up not only overseas. We've got groups, let's name them. There's Hamas in Gaza. Hezbollah is in Lebanon. We've got Houthi, Houthi, in Yemen. We've got Boko Haram down in southern Africa. And then we have the drug cartels in Mexico. So, folks, I'm telling you, we got nonsense going on everywhere. And most recently it was indicated, and this is really troubling, that owing to the open southern border in the United States, which has allowed millions and millions and millions of immigrants to come into the United States uncharted, untested, the whole 9 yards. It's a mess. Under the current administration, they claim they have no idea how many terrorists have been part of those people coming in. But they do say, we know that many of those coming in have terrorist ties. We don't know how many, we don't know where they are, and we don't know when they're going to rise up and bring an attack in the United States itself. Now, that may seem as if we're speaking out of turn. I don't believe that's the case. We saw some very vivid video presentations a couple of months ago about the effect of that open border and the onslaught of individuals coming across the border unchecked, no idea who they are, et cetera, et cetera. The other day, I read a report on the number of illegals who have been put on buses or in planes and flown to other cities in the U.S., and it's absolutely staggering how they have spread these people across major American cities like New York and Boston and Chicago and so on and so forth. So not only have they been coming in, but they're being dispersed everywhere. This may sound alarming. This may, how does this tie into the end times? It ties in because we have nation coming against nation, kingdom against kingdom. We have wars and rumors of wars. Jesus prophesied this. These are his words. We have Paul declaring that perilous times will be coming. And that certainly is the case as well. Perilous times everywhere in the U.S. And then look at Canada just for a moment. We've allowed so many immigrants to come into the country that we are overpopulated with them. We don't have positions for them, but we have to supply them with social benefits, social care, health care, housing, et cetera, et cetera. We've reached a point where we are inundated. We're tipping the scales. We're in a deficit realm right now, and it's not getting better. And no disrespect to the immigrants, but the government's decision to bring in so many before we are in a position to handle them, that's the issue. So we are in end times, and they're getting more involved every day. Tomorrow we're going to share some more in the realm of nation versus nation.